of Gentle Chair Yoga on this very rainy morning. It is November 13th, 2020. And I wanted to welcome everybody to this session. Before we begin, as always, participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. We also wanted to thank our friends of the Brookline Library for providing for sponsoring this program and programs like it. We also wanted to recognize our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who are streaming this program through their Facebook page, their YouTube page, and local channel 3 on RCN and Comcast. And once again, here is Keith.
Hi, good morning. So let's start out sitting up nice and tall. So this is our seated mountain pose, and it's really a foundational pose. The reason for that is when we practice Hatha Yoga, so much of it is about the suppleness of the spine. They like to say in yoga that you're as young as your spine is flexible. So when your spine is nice and supple, it makes it a little easier. So let's sit up nice and tall and take a few breaths. And then we're going to listen. I'm going to ring the sound to start our class, ring the bell to start our class. And as you sit up, feel the feet pressing into the floor, feel the buttocks pressing into the chair. That's our foundation. And we axially extend the spine up from there. And the back of the neck is long. So don't let the chin lift up. Sometimes it wants to lift up. Try to keep the face facing straight ahead and keep the shoulders back a little bit. So at least they're in a neutral position relative to the chest. We don't want to be doing this. I'll turn sideways so you can see the rounding of the shoulders. We tend to sit so much that's a common, and we're going to work on that in just a minute actually. But let's listen first. Just breathing. If you want to, you can rest your hand on your belly to feel the breath. So breathing and sitting up tall and just listening for just a moment. Feel free to close the eyes and soften the face. And relaxing the shoulders and the arms, the hands and the fingers. Releasing the jaw, the tongue, and the throat. And as the belly goes back in and we exhale, we feel a softening in the body, a relaxation, a letting go, a releasing. And as we inhale, we feel a little lifting or a little lightness. So use the mind to help visualize, imagine, feel any of those things you can use as tools to tune in to the breath and to feel what's happening in the body. And just take one more breath. I'd like to start out with an exercise that you could do during the day. And we're going to start with it because it's a nice way to really open the heart and open the chest, which helps to counteract sitting, especially sitting at the computer. When we sit at the computer, the shoulders tend to round forward like this. So to readjust that, we're going to work with the hands somewhere either on the hips, and notice how even when I put my hands on my hips, the shoulders open and move back. So I get broadening of the chest here, even with the hands on the hips. But you can even go a step further and you can work with the hands on the lower back like this, or you could even work with the interlacing the fingers and just letting the hands rest on the chair. You could also do this standing. So either way. And so the first thing is we find the spot for our hands. You could also do this. You could put the hands on the back of the chair, assuming your chair has room for your hands behind you. Depends on your chair. So any of these things work great. Hands on the chair, hands on the lower back, fingers interlaced, hands on the hips. So find something that broadens the chest. And you're, of course, welcome to stand and do it. So you could do this standing, same thing. Of course, you won't have the chair to work with if you're standing, but the interlacing the fingers is the same, or working with the hands on the lower back. And here we take a few breaths. And noticing when we're in this position with the hands behind us, there's a broadening, a lengthening here from the sternum to the shoulders. And sometimes there's a tendency for the belly to stick out a little bit. So you may need to firm up the belly and move the navel back slightly to flatten the lower back a little. So it's not really flat back here, but it's less curved. So I don't want to move my hands behind me and then have the belly sticking way out. I need to firm the belly up. And when we firm up, that's going to provide support to extending the spine up. And that's so you can release that whenever you're ready. So this is a great thing to do. So some people will set their watch if they have to sit for a long time to remind themselves to get up. So if you do something like that, or you're reminding yourself to do something as you're sitting and throughout the day, think about perhaps putting the arms behind you, even just like this. So there's no straining here. This is just the sort of opposite of seated and being like this. So I'm just relaxed. And that's the important thing about working with these, with a position like this, is we get the general shape of the pose. And it might remind you, let's try some cactus breaths. This inhaling and exhaling. So this perhaps reminds you of the cactus breath with the arms behind you, with the arms down. But notice that feeling of opening in the front. And now let's sit up nice and tall. And we'll bring the palms together right in front. And then we'll inhale and lift up and circle the hands around. So we're inhaling up and exhaling around. Perhaps as the hands rise up, you can feel the heart lifting and opening. You might even notice the chin lifts up a little. So I'll turn sideways so you can see. So as we lift the heart, as the hands come up, there's a little rocking of the pelvis forward, and perhaps a lifting slightly of the chin. And then as we come down, the chin comes down slightly and the pelvis rocks back so the back becomes flat. So we were talking about suppleness in the spine. So as we move one part of the spine, and as we move, and let's do this. Actually, bring your hands back for 1 second. Move the elbows back like this, and then cross and just touch the triceps here. So I'm going like this and then crossing like this. So I'm feeling this opening here. And when I move my thoracic spine, the vertebra between the shoulder blades, it starts to move the other vertebra in the spine. And that's a good thing. They're all interconnected, so they're all going to work together. So let's come back and let's rest our hands here on the knees. And even think about dangling the fingers over like this so you sort of hold on to the knees very gently. So it's more like a cupping of the knees. And then we're going to inhale and lift the heart and then go back. So let's do this a few times. And we'll go back to those circles in a minute. So when we bend the spine in 6 ways, if you've been to this class before, we have an exercise called bending the spine in 6 ways. So this is number 1 and 2. This is flexion and extension. I'll turn sideways so you can see. And think about ease of movement here, not how far you can move, not how big a curve you can get or how much movement you can get. Think about how easily can I move so that I feel like there's almost no effort involved. And I don't want any pain. If you're getting any pain or discomfort, you're going too far with the movement. And we want to do it with the breath, inhaling and then exhaling. And that's number 1 and 2. But let's finish up the circles first, and then we'll come back to the other parts of bending the spine. So our hands are together, and then we're inhaling up and then down. So this is this part where you can begin to feel the pelvis rocking underneath you, or feel the sitting bones, assuming your chair is firm. You might feel the sitting bones beneath you. Those are the bones right at the base of the buttocks. And the chin might lift up a little. Try not to drop the head back. It's okay to bow the head a little bit more in the front if you want. Sort of just relaxing. And thinking about lifting and extending the spine as you inhale and come up. Almost like there's this lifting up in the center, this rising up, and then the arms are going out to the side and cascading down, falling down like a waterfall, and then rising up and coming down. Let's go the other way. So we'll bring the hands back together, and then we'll drop the hands, flip the palms up, and then lift up and around. And a few more times. This is another opportunity to open the heart, but it's slightly different. It feels slightly different because the arms, the opening is coming from the arms lifting up instead of the other direction. And then we'll bring the hands down, roll the shoulders a few times. Let's do some circling like this. You could even work with rolling the hand and then letting the hand sort of slide over the top of the head. Letting it slide, almost like you're wiping sweat. If you were sweating and you wanted to wipe your face, wipe your brow, you'd be doing this. Keeping the shoulders relaxed here. And then coming back down. And then going the other way, a little swimming. So we're starting to let the belly move a little more here. And moving as in turning. So, and let's bring the hands back like this. And bring the elbows. So we're going to slowly move the elbows back until I start to, the torso starts to turn to the side. And then I'm going to come back the other way. It's nice to close the eyes here so that you're not worried about how far you're turning. Don't worry about how far. See if you can feel the belly moving, following the elbow back. So as I move my elbow back, there's a lengthening along the diagonal from the hip, the opposite hip, up to the shoulder. You can even think of it that way. You can think about maybe not the elbow moving back, but think about the shoulder moving back away from the hip or even away from the knee, from this area right here. And that's our extension or a movement back. And we want to focus on that movement and then see if you can notice this belly turning, the belly turning with that. And then we'll go ahead and come back down. So let's finish up the bending the spine in 6 ways. We did the first 2, which are lifting, this flexion and extension. And this is a great series that you could do a little bit every day, even just a couple of minutes, maybe 30 seconds or a minute for each one. The second one, the second part, number 3 and 4, is lateral extension. So we're going to reach up and extend. And if you're tired of sitting, you're welcome to stand and do this, as long as your balance is good. So some of these exercises lend themselves well to standing or seated. And as I reach up, I'm going to start to lean a little bit. I'm going to reach up first. Notice how there's a long, almost straight up, and then I'm going to lean over. So I'm going to get length first and lean over. And as you start to lean, notice the opposite hip's going to want to lift up. Keep the hip firmly in the seat. It's almost like the hip is moving down while the arm is moving up and over. So we start to get this real nice lengthening, this feeling of lengthening of the body. If you need support, you can use the side of the chair for support. Lengthening up. Or if you have arms on your chair, you could use the arms of your chair. If you had arms like this, it can be handy too. So this is number 3 and 4 in bending the spine. 5 and 6 is actually the turning that we were doing before. So we're going to inhale and sit up nice and tall. And start out by resting the fingers on the shoulders like this. And elbows no higher than the shoulders, though. So kind of like a chicken. And then we're going to turn from side to side. So this is similar to what we did before, but now instead of thinking about moving the elbows and the shoulders back, see if you can feel the movement across the belly. See if you can feel the movement across the belly. If you have trouble feeling the movement, then move your elbows back like this. Think about moving the elbows back and see if you can feel the movement. So this particular exercise is really about feeling what's happening down here. It's not moving the shoulders. But you may need to move to get the feeling of moving the belly by moving the shoulders or the elbows. And that's okay. So as we practice more and as we practice over a longer period of time, different parts of the body start to kind of wake up and we get to know them. We can feel them better and they respond better to when we want them to actually work. And let's sit up nice and tall. That's bending the spine in 6 ways. And let's do a little warm up, starting with let's do the hands and feet at the same time. So let's lift. I'll take one of my socks off anyway. It's been warmer, now it's cold again. So lifting, let's start with just the toes then. If you can do the fingers and the toes at the same time, you're welcome to do that. But concentrating on the toes, I'm going to lift the toes up and spread the toes. So if you have trouble getting the toes to be responsive, one of the things that you can do is you can actually manually begin to move them apart. And what happens is after a while, we start to feel, what does it feel like when my toes move apart? So that means you really have to connect. As I'm moving my toes, I'm really focusing on, I even try closing the eyes here. I'm really feeling on focusing on what does it feel like? I want to feel what's happening down here in my toes. So I need to focus all my attention there. So by closing the eyes, it can be, our eyes, we're very easily distracted by anything that we see. And it's the same thing for focusing any of our senses. When we close our eyes, our other senses become sharper. The one thing we always have to be careful about is we rely so heavily on our eyes that we have to be careful that we don't, you wouldn't want to close your eyes walking around, even though you might be able to feel stuff with your hands. It's a potentially a little dangerous way to practice. But having our eyes shut and feeling our toes moving apart is a good way to begin to feel the toes. And so I'm lifting and spreading the toes here. And we always want to be, one of the things in our yoga practice is we learn to be nice to ourselves. We practice ahimsa, which is a Sanskrit word for nonviolence. It also means things like kindness. It means about non-injury might be a better translation. And so, of course, the opposite of that is being kind to our bodies, being kind to other people. And now let's add if you haven't added the fingers, add the fingers to it. So I'm going to lift and spread my toes and then open my hands and spread my fingers and then relax everybody. So they open and then they relax. So see if you can find that effort and then a softening. Effort, a softening. Imagine the effort is even flowing down the arms so that it goes out to the fingertips and the tips of the toes. And then we soften and that effort sort of releases and comes back this way. Perhaps visualizing, if you have your eyes closed, perhaps visualizing that movement of effort. Remember, yoga, we talk about balancing ease and effort. And then let's do the ankles and the wrists. So we're going to spin the ankles around, making sure the knees stay in the same spot. So if you need to gently hold the knees, you can do that. And you might sometimes you get a little pop or a click. And then we can add the wrist to it. And see if you can get them to work in sync. In other words, pointing in the same direction. So as the toes are pointing out, the fingers are pointing out. As the toes are pointing in, the fingers are pointing in. I can even vary the speed a little bit and have a little fun with it. I can go a little faster. Let's go the other way. A little faster and then slower. Sometimes the slow part is the hardest part because it makes it feel less, it's not as smooth. It's sort of a little bit choppy. And then resting, and let's rock the feet. So coming up on the heels and toes. I want to put my socks back on, but please keep your feet rocking. So coming up on the balls of the feet, and then coming up on the heels, rocking back and forth. You can add the wrists to it as well. So we have our feet rocking, and then we can add the wrists rocking like this. Turn sideways. So you can see, and see if you can get them to go into sync with each other. And what I mean by that is the end of the movement, hands are up, toes are up. Hands come back, heels come up. So they are together. The rhythm is the same. So we've got the same rhythm going. It feels much more comfortable to do the exercise that way, and more unifying. So I have a connection between the hands and the feet. And then if you want, you can add a little circle with the hands like this, circling around. See if you can keep the same thing, so you have a connection, a rhythmical connection between the feet and the heels, the toes and the heels, and the circling of the hands. So they're going at the same rate. I complete a circle when the feet are rocking back and forth. Now let's go the other way. Let's try it the other way. So sometimes the exercises that we're doing, I don't always practice them ahead of time. And sometimes I'll add things and sometimes not be able to do it maybe perfectly. So, but with practice, it gets better. With practice, it gets better, and then we'll rest. And we're going to start to, we're going to go from side to side here, just to warm up a little bit more. Starting out with some bigger movement, side to side. If you have arms on your chair, just be mindful, be careful not to bump into the arms of the chair. You could also, if you want, you want it to be more challenging, move away from the back of the chair. So right now, my thighs are out in space, and just my buttocks is in the chair, and I'm going from side to side. And I can start to lift the knees up a little higher, and I can slow things down a little. So it really requires some core strength. When I get rid of my momentum, when there's no momentum to lift the leg up, it's all coming from the belly and the side and a little bit in the back. This is an opportunity to use these core muscles here to build some strength. And this is another one of those things that you could do on a regular basis to build some strength. If you find it's too strenuous to lift the knee up a lot, just lift it a little bit. You could even begin, if you wanted to, and we practice this with other exercises, just lifting the heel off. And now the weight's starting to move into the other foot. And that's what we want. We lift the heel up, and now the weight's starting to move. So in the beginning, as we start to build strength over a period of time, we can work this way. And then as we build our strength, maybe if you do it regularly, maybe in a week or two, you'll be able to lift your foot a little off the floor. And if this is too easy, you can even come up like this and hold the leg for a moment and then slowly come down. It's nice if you do it really slowly, especially coming down, it can be quite challenging. It's also harder to balance. As I'm up like this, I'm really kind of on one sitting bone. This buttocks is totally off the chair now. And so it's, I'm balancing, and then I'm coming back down. And you could even, if you wanted, you could put your arms out like this. And back and forth. You could even try, we could bring them back in the middle and then move them out to the side like this for balance. Then bring them back and then out. And remember, you can make the movement smaller. You can make them a small movement and see how that feels. And let's go back to that bigger movement like this. And let's do go back to the legs now. So we're going to sit supported in the chair. Well, you don't have to be, but it's more challenging. We're going to lift the foot up, and let's point and flex to start. So just pointing and flexing the foot. Trying to keep the legs straight as you can. So hip, knee, ankle, toes straight ahead in one line. And then I'm going to do the other one. I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to go back and forth a few times. See if you can feel the movement right here at the where the top of the foot meets the leg, right in the front of the ankle. So this is another thing, another opportunity to begin to feel the movement. And when we can feel the movement, we make that connection, and eventually the parts of the body become more responsive when we want them to be. When we want them to do something, they respond better. They're more cooperative. And then we're going to lift up and come back down. So we're going to alternate legs here, just lifting up. And for some people, your leg might only come up a little bit. That's okay. And for some people, you may be able to straighten the leg so it's parallel to the floor. So it looks like this when we extend. So the heel's pressing away and the toes are coming back. So so this is pointed, this is flexed. So when we lift up the leg, we're flexing back, and then we release the foot down. And the foot is soft here. It's not flexed or extended. So it's flexed, and then I relax the foot. I relax the ankle, the front of the ankle. And then I'm going to alternate. And if this is using the back of the chair is too easy, and you want more of a challenge, don't use the back of the chair. Just make sure that you can keep the spine lifted. It's challenging. So we keep the belly firm here in order to lift the legs up. But I'd like to do it without straining. So if you find that you're straining, you probably want to use the back of the chair. We're going to do this a few more times. And let's add the arm. Add the arm like this. And you could add the opposite arm or the same arm. And as you lift the arm up, think about lifting the heart up. Think about lifting the sternum up. So there's this lengthening of the spine. And it may be hard to see because when we lengthen the spine, the movements, the spine doesn't, even when you pull the vertebra apart with the muscles in the back, there's not a lot of movement. It's small. So it's more of almost a feeling of lifting and lightness, a feeling of lifting and lightness. You could even close the eyes here. It's nice to close the eyes. And you don't worry about what it looks like. And you feel the lifting, or imagine you're a dancer. Imagine you're a dancer. And then come back down. And then we can continue with one leg, or if you want to try two, you can, like this. So only do two if you can keep the spine lifted. If the spine starts to round and slump as you lift two, even if you're using the back of the chair, then please go back to one. And if this is too easy, you could add an arm. You could even add two arms if it's too easy. But again, you want to be able to feel the heart lifting and opening as you reach up, and pressing the heels away, flexing the feet, and lengthening. So the important part here is to Lengthen the spine as you're extending up. Lengthen the spine as you're extending up. And without straining. So if it's really hard, then maybe you need to dial it back a little bit and work up to it. Try a little bit every day or every other day. Make it part of your routine. Like, we always, most of us make coffee every morning or tea. And, you can make a little exercise even part of your routine. Maybe sitting in a chair, slide it away from the breakfast table before you have your coffee and try a little bit, or maybe after you have your coffee. And sitting up nice and tall. And we're going to slide forward in the chair. And we're going to spread the feet apart and we're going to circle around. So we're going to wake up the abdomen here and the sides of the body. Thinking about extending the spine up. So the spine's still lengthening, sitting bones are still pressing down, and try not to look down. If we look down, we tend to round our spine. We want the spine extended, lifting. If you want more of a challenge, spread the feet a little wider and make the circles bigger, or even get rid of the arms. You could get rid of the arms. And then there's no support, but be mindful that especially here for the lower back, shouldn't be any pain or discomfort in the lower back. Let's go the other way. So if you want to work without the arms, make sure everything feels okay. You might even notice as you're circling around that you can feel a little bit of movement in the belly here. A little bit of, it's not exactly twisting, but it's similar to what we were doing before, like this. Let's keep circling, keep circling. See if you can feel the belly moving. And feel the belly engaged. We want to feel firmness here, but without tension. So we want a firmness that is not hard and rigid. We want a firmness that's taut and supportive. So think that way. If you want to make it, if this is, you want to make it a little easier, sit up a little taller, make the circles smaller. Make them smaller. It would be more important to engage the belly here, to firm the belly up and make smaller circles than to be making big circles and have the belly not be able to provide the right support. It's very, very important for the belly. One of the reasons that we often have back problems, or it's very common, people with back problems, it's very common to have a weak abdomen. And that comes in part because we sit so much, unfortunately. Let's sit up nice and tall. We're going to do the neck. We're going to sit up tall and lengthen the neck up, and then soften the throat and let the chin come down. And then lift up. So as I'm doing the neck exercises, I'm thinking about letting the weight of the head do the work here. So I'm lifting up and I'm lifting up, and then I'm letting the chin come down very softly. I'm just really releasing the chin down and then coming back up again. So there's a little more effort when I'm lifting, and then a softening of the throat in the back of the neck as I release down. So I'm doing these exercises really without any forcing, without any straining, with that bouncing ease and effort here. And then I'm going to go to the side. And you're welcome. You can make a pillow with your hands if you'd like. Just resting the ear on the hands, and the hands are resting on the shoulder. So we're inhaling up and exhaling, softening, releasing, letting go, and then inhale up. Sighing might be nice. I even like to let things go a little bit where perhaps you get a little bit of bending in the side of the body. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just sort of relaxing and seeing what happens. Some people prefer to practice the neck exercises with the spine quite straight and just letting the head rest like this. It's kind of your choice. You feel like a little bit more whole body bending a little bit with the neck, or do you feel like you'd like it to be a little more just the neck? And then we're going to turn the head. Try closing the eyes here and imagining that you're painting with the tip of your nose. You're painting with the tip of your nose, back and forth. And let's we'll rub the hands together for a moment, come back to the center, and we're going to massage the ears for a moment. We've done that. So we start down at the bottom, we work our way all the way up, and we're very softly squeezing and then letting the ear gently pulling on the skin and letting the ear slide through the fingers. So there's no pain or discomfort here. It actually feels nice. It feels like a little massage. Now try that movement of the head again. See if it feels any different. Some people find that massaging the ears like that frees the neck up a little bit. And then let's circle around. Always mindful when we work on our neck that the vertebrae in the neck are smaller, potentially sensitive, and we want to be kind to them. And let's circle the other way. Not dropping the head back. We're circling, there's a slight turn sideways. You can see the head's going ever so slightly back, but not very much. Don't drop it back like this. Really, I see people do that sometimes, and it hurts my neck to see people do that. And we're sitting up nice and tall. And let's bring the hands together. Inhale a couple of times around. See if it's a little easier now that we've worked on the shoulders and the neck. See if it feels any more freedom with the arms circling around. Maybe not, they might not be a bigger movement, but perhaps the shoulders feel more open and the neck is a little bit more relaxed. Let's go the other way. Inhaling up and exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. So a few cactus breaths here. Inhale, exhale. And if you'd like, you can add a hug. Exhale. Remember, you can start with a small hug and then begin to walk the fingers a little closer to the shoulders. So really finding what's working for you today. What feels okay, what feels nice. So we want to feel a little stretch, but without straining. A couple more. Oh, remember to switch the arms. Which arm is on top? Don't always do one over the other. And then we'll come back down. We're going to do eagle arms. Now that we've warmed up the neck and the shoulders, we've been working on this now for a couple of weeks, holding the arm out. You're welcome to, if you know how to do a full eagle arms with the elbow in the elbow and the crook, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can hold your arm, one arm out, and then support the arm with the other arm underneath. So this is the first step. And inhaling, sitting up tall, relaxing the shoulders. So that's an important part of the pose. Is it's not just to get into the pose, but it's actually to be able to relax and soften the shoulders so that the shoulder blades spread apart behind us. So you remember, you're welcome to bring the crook underneath the elbow. You can even bring the fingers up like this if that's accessible. We're going to do it twice. So if this is your first step, start here. Let things relax and then lower down, roll the shoulders. So we build our poses one step at a time. We hold the other arm out, and then we can put the other arm underneath. And you're always welcome. You can work down like this. And for this one, if you do find your shoulders bother you, this can be nice because my arm is actually resting here against my belly. So I'm holding my arm up a little bit, but not a lot. And I'm keeping my shoulders relaxed. It's important to keep the shoulders relaxed. Important to keep the shoulders relaxed. And come back down. We'll do the other side again. So in order to help relax the shoulders, as you exhale, think about releasing any tension, releasing any effort that you have. Once the arms are sort of tied up, they're not going anywhere. Even if you go like this, the arms really aren't going to go anywhere. But as I exhale, I soften. And if you want, you can interlace or find the fingers together like this. Remember, you can use your, this is just a bandana. Remember, you can use whatever you want to, let's see, it's like this, so that you have something to hold on to. And this is where we soften the shoulders and relax the face and eyes. We try to find some ease here. If you're ready for the next step, if you can sit up tall and keep the shoulders relaxed, you can begin to lift the elbows slightly. And you'll find you get more of a stretch in the back of the body. But please do it if there's no strain here. I can still keep my shoulders relaxed, my face and eyes. If you find everything's getting all jammed up, then you're working too hard at it. We have to have more patience. And then releasing and letting go slowly with control. And that's an important part. Anytime we get into a pose, we generally get into it slowly. So it's important to not just collapse at the end when you take everything apart. We maintain that control of the musculature, and then we're going to do the other side. So the elbow and the crook of the elbow, and then if you want, you can reach up and around. And notice one side works better for me. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And exhaling, softening, releasing, relaxing, letting go. And if you're ready for the next step, you can start to lift the elbows up. As long as the shoulders don't ride up. We want the shoulders to stay soft, moving down away from the ears. And we need to be able to breathe. If you can't breathe in this position, if you're so constricted with the breath, then you need to go back to working like this until you can feel the breath, and then go ahead and release and come back down. Let's roll the shoulders. So the breath is a good way to tell if you're overdoing it. If we find that we're breathing heavily or breathing, we don't have a natural breath, we're laboring or holding the breath, then we're working too hard. And sitting up nice and tall. We're going to stand up next. Or if you want, you can work in seated mountain pose. We're going to stand into mountain pose next. And we just worked with our shoulder blades. So let's try the exercise we did at the very beginning, where we interlaced the fingers, or we worked with the hands on the lower back like this. Notice my fingers are pointing down here. Or you can work with the hands on the hips like this. So any of those choices. And if you're seated, remember, you can even use the back or sides of the chair. And we're just going to pause here for a couple breaths. And you might notice after this working with the shoulders that you feel a little more open in this area. So there's a broadening, the ribs feel more open, and you might get a little more movement of the shoulder blades together here too, so that the shoulder blades move together with more ease. And that's really what we want, right? We want things to move with ease without us having to work so hard. And if we can get things to move with ease in our yoga practice, it carries over into the rest of the day. And things move a little bit more easily. And we'll release, and let's just swing the arms here. So if you're standing, remember to let the knees be soft here. So there's a slight bend in the knees. I'll turn sideways so you can see. A very slight bend. And the weight's shifting a little bit. The weight's moving from one foot to the other. And the heel might even lift up. And you can do the same thing seated. So if you're standing, please continue to stand. But you can do the same thing seated. The weight shifting, and my heel's lifting up. So as I go to this side, I'm letting my heel lift up a little. Not so different than standing. Just watch out for the arms of the chair and also the back of the chair. Don't swing your arms so much back that they bang into the back of the chair. And we're going to do our balance pose next. So we're going to do a tree pose today. So we come into our mountain pose, bend the knees slightly, straighten the legs, stand up nice and tall, move the shoulders back. And then our tree pose, we're going to start just by rotating the leg outward like this. And you could do this in your chair too. And standing up nice and tall. So get the feeling of lengthening here with this opening in the groin. So we get this turning of the leg out, and we're going to come back and do the other side. So this firmness in the straight leg and the standing leg, most of the weight is in the standing leg. There's a little bit, I could actually sort of touch and go with my toes like this if I wanted. And try not to lean over. Sometimes there's a tendency for the hip to do this. So see if you can keep your firmness to the buttocks and compact the hips. Bring the hips together so that there's a lengthening up, even as my foot is out like this. And let's come back and do the other side. So I didn't say anything at the beginning, but we're going to take an extra 5 minutes because we started late. So I have about 11:26 now. So we'll finish up at 11:35. That's the plan anyway. So, and then we'll do the other side. So this time we'll stand up nice and tall, and we'll start just by rotating the leg out. And then if you want, you can bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the calf. Just don't put don't put it on the knee. You could even bring it up into the groin if you wanted to, like this, but not on the knee. Don't put the sole of the foot on the knee. But this is usually, for most people, this is more comfortable. And then if you want, you can add the arms. And find that balance. Find that balance. Find that drishti point. Think about extending the spine up, pressing the foot into the floor, extending the leg up, compacting the hips, lifting the heart, and lifting the gaze. Lifting the gaze. And then whenever you're ready, you can come back down. Shake out for a second. Do the other side. So start in mountain pose. Lengthen up. So we want to be nice and tall. Feel tall. And then go ahead and turn the leg out. Compact the hips. Make sure that hip stays in. And then find a spot for the sole of the foot. Extending the spine up. And if you want, you can add the arms. You can add the arms like a giant oak tree or maple tree or whatever tree you have. Dogwood tree, pecan tree, magnolia. and raising the gaze up. And then whenever you're ready, you can come back down and just swing one more time here. And we'll do the work on opening the front of the hip here. So this is another, so this, what we did earlier with the arms helps to open this part of the body and counteract sitting. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to step back and lift the heart up at the same time. And that's going to open this part, which counteracts when we sit, the leg is in this position. And notice how everything is short here. So we open it like this with these exercises. We're going to step back. It also firms the buttocks. And, you know, an engaged buttocks, a strong buttocks helps to support the knee. So we need all these muscles right here, all support the joints in these areas. Well, particularly the hip, but especially the knee. People complain a lot about knee issues. We're going to step back, and then let's change legs. So I have my chair for balance, but I don't. If my balance is good, I don't have to use the chair. I could step back and forth, and it's definitely different when I'm not using the chair. It's harder to maintain our balance, but we have to really focus on feeling the foot, extending the leg up. And if you want more of a challenge, you could add the arms like this, or one arm. So you could even have one hand on the chair and then one arm. So notice it's almost like a back bend. Notice the shape, the curve up the back of the leg and up the spine. So I'm working, but I'm really lifting. I'm curving, but I'm lifting up first, and then there's a little curve. Almost like when we were working before on that lateral extension and talking about how the first step is to actually extend up and then open. Or for the lateral extension, it's bend to the side. We extend up first, and then we open, and then come back. And let's stand in mountain pose for just a moment, and then we're going to sit back down. So get your bearings here. Whether you're seated or standing, feel evenness on the feet, standing up nice and tall. And then we're going to sit back down. We'll start to cool down here. So we'll bring the hands together and we'll inhale up and circle around. Notice what it feels like here. We started with this at the very beginning of class. Notice what it feels like relative to extending the spine up, that lengthening, that lifting, that floating up as we inhale, the opening of the heart as the hands come up. And then we're going to go the other way. So let's bring the hands together and then drop the hands down, turn the palms up, and extend the spine up. So as the hands are coming up, I'm lifting the spine up and down and around. A couple more times. And let's settle into our Shavasana. So finding the most comfortable way that we can sit, the most comfortable way. And I'm going to turn down, I always recommend turning down the lights a little bit. It's easier to relax when there's less light. We can also close the eyes, but even having bright lights on, especially if anybody's laying down on the floor to do their Shavasana. You'll either want to turn the overhead lights off, or you could even, if you had your bandana or whatever you have, your scarf, you could gently place this over your eyes if you're laying down like this. Very nice to do that. And sitting up nice and tall. So feeling supported under the feet, under the buttocks, the back of the chair. And letting the breath feel nice and rhythmical. Or if you have glasses, you might want to take them off. Helps the face to relax more easily. Feel free to use a blanket or a wrap of some kind, sweater. So as we've done in the past, our Shavasana will begin together, and then we'll end the class, and then you're encouraged to go ahead and continue for a longer Shavasana, 5 or 10 minutes if you have time. Time allows. Think of it as an investment in the rest of your day, even just 5 minutes more. And try it and see how you feel for the rest of the day. See if it makes a difference. Feeling the breath moving in and out, feeling the belly moving in and out. And sitting up nice and tall. I'll see everyone next time. I'll ring the bell to formally conclude our class. And everybody have a great weekend. Namaste.